In the Rutina's empire, a common phrase highlights a deep-seated rivalry. On one side are the Knights of Emblem, who represent the sun, and on the other, the Knights of Grey, who embody the moonlight. These two knightly orders have been sworn enemies for generations. People believed they would never reconcile, even if the world ended. But then, the impossible happened. Their commanders became sworn sisters. The public was in absolute shock, unable to believe the news. The two commanders, Melercia and Dana, formed a strong bond. To prove their harmony, they proposed marrying their future children. My mother, Dana, the Emblem Knight Commander, readily agreed to it. And that's the story of why I, Certia Emblem, am being forced into this marriage. A marriage that I am clearly not happy about in the slightest. My fiancé is none other than my lifelong rival and enemy, Enoch Grey. I absolutely refuse to go through with this ridiculous engagement to him. My attendant is shocked to find me still in my knight's uniform. She can't believe I'm not planning to wear a proper wedding dress, but I see nothing wrong with my attire for the ceremony. This uniform is the highest honor I can possibly display as a commander. My attendant gives in, but she's still worried about something else. She notices my sword and fears I might actually use it on him. She asks if I even understand how this marriage came to be. My attendant is absolutely horrified by my flippant response. She reminds me of the historical importance of this engagement. Cecilia even starts crying, saying I'm ruining this long-awaited union. I tell her I know everything, but she's clearly not convinced. Of course, I know the history of our two rival families. Everyone is just here to watch two rival commanders get hitched. But I tell her not to worry, since my fiancé is missing. She's shocked I'd say such a thing about my future husband. Suddenly, my attention is drawn to something happening nearby. It's a pile of my knights caught eavesdropping at the door. They stammer about correcting rumors, blaming each other for being here. I demand to know exactly why my knights are at my engagement party. Turns out my vice commander sent them to help me escape. They've even prepared an escape route and are ready to escort me out. My lady-in-waiting is horrified that I might actually consider it. She reminds me this is an imperial ceremony overseen by the emperor. I can't run, but I also can't wait for a fiancé who might be dead. So I declare we'll just get this engagement over with right now. Because if he's a no-show, I'll have the perfect excuse to break it off later. The priest greets me, saying everything is prepared, but he seems hesitant. He thinks I'm worried about Enoch, but I'd rather handle him myself. He finds my attitude amusing, but I'm serious about starting the ceremony now. He's shocked I want to proceed alone, certain my fiancé won't make it. He warns me that if I do this, I can never get engaged again. That's fine, because I can just break this one off later. He's moved to tears by my profound thinking and agrees to my plan. I'm ecstatic because as long as Enoch isn't here, who cares? With that settled, the trumpets announce the beginning of the ceremony. The priest, now at the altar, calls for me to step forward. I scan the crowd for Lord Enoch, but it seems he didn't show up. A voice warns me to be quiet, but I don't really care what he thinks. Let's just get this over with before he... Oh, someone's at the door. I turn around as the crowd gasps, realizing he's back from the battlefield. It's Lord Enoch Grey, looking like he just walked out of a war zone. He smirks and asks if I was really getting engaged without him here. I ask what happened to him, and he says he just had to be here. But I'm furious he's using that old nickname, and I tell him to stop. He touches my face, saying he'd always recognize me, confusing me completely. Before I can react, he pulls me close and silences my protests. I'm in total shock, unable to process what is happening right now. That bastard Enoch Grey is kissing me in front of everyone. My knights are absolutely losing their minds seeing this unfold. I can't believe he's actually doing this right here, right now. He finally pulls away, leaving me completely speechless. He has the audacity to ask if I missed him. Then he calls me detective, a word that stops me cold. How could he possibly know my occupation from my past life? As I look into his eyes, a horrifying realization begins to dawn on me. He's not just some stranger. He's my enemy from my past life. Most people don't remember the day they were born, but I was born as Certia to two loving parents. They believed I would end a long-standing family feud. Of course I remember it all because I wasn't a normal baby. My new parents just thought I was a very energetic child. Inside, I was panicking, wondering what was happening to me. My last memory was chasing down my lifelong enemy. He was the criminal I had been pursuing my entire career. After a long and desperate chase, I finally caught him. But that's the last thing I remember before waking up here. My new parents thought my cries were cute, but I was furious about my enemy. They believed my powerful voice was a sign I was destined for greatness. But of course, no one could understand my adult frustrations as a baby. After a while, I started to think this new life might be pretty nice. It turns out I was reborn as an unbelievably adorable baby. I realized I could enjoy the perks of being this cute, but the maids were suddenly scolded for playing around with me. They were worried about the family head, who apparently never visits. This family head is my grandfather, and he opposes my parents' union. He banished my mother and me to this mansion, refusing to acknowledge us. Honestly, I'm perfectly happy just lying around and eating. But the peace is broken by maids frantically cleaning for a visitor. I wonder what all the commotion is about as a maid rushes over.
She tells me it's an emergency. My grandfather is arriving soon.
This is our chance to make a good impression, so she begs me not to cry. The sound of his arrival makes her frantic, and I'm getting nervous too. Heavy footsteps echo down the hallway, signaling his arrival. The entire household staff stands at attention, looking terrified. And there he is, a man with an incredibly intimidating presence. He immediately asks to see me, Malercia's daughter. His overwhelming presence fills the room with a suffocating silence. I remember hearing he was the most spirited knight commander, but he just looks scary. The butler introduces me, but the family head is instantly enraged. He's furious. I was given the family name and lashes out at the butler. I'm shocked. He sent the man reeling without even touching him. I knew his power was legendary, but I never imagined it was this intense. Then his glowing purple eyes locked directly onto me. He's terrifying, but he just asks if I've been eating properly. The butler quickly assures him that I eat very well. He just scoffs, calling me an anchovy before turning to leave. After he leaves, I worry about the butler who took the brunt of his anger. But he just pulls out a vial of fake blood saying it's for emergencies. I'm completely amazed by his incredible survival tactics. Now I need a plan to deal with my grandfather who clearly dislikes me. Just then, my mother rushes in, looking for my father. The butler tells her he just left, and she seems to know exactly why. She thinks he ran away to hide his soft spot for me, calling it her win. As she picks me up, the butler notes it looked more like a total defeat. My mother then reveals her secret plan, sending him my portraits every single day. She says he needs to see how his only granddaughter is growing up. She proudly declares her plan worked, as he couldn't even last a day. I'm stunned remembering how that same grandfather refused to even acknowledge me. The butler agrees, concluding that grandfather must really like me after all. But I protest loudly, finding it impossible to believe that was love. She just thinks I'm being smart, but we are clearly not communicating. Soon, however, I had no choice but to acknowledge grandfather's love. It came in the form of endless rare delicacies served just for me. The butler worries as I slump over, completely overwhelmed by this gesture. The problem is, his love is just way too much to handle. So I make a desperate escape from the table, begging for no more. I cried that he called me an anchovy, but a greater trial was approaching. This trial came in the form of my future fiancé, Enoch. He was instructed to always treat me with kindness, but instead he immediately kicked over my portrait. This was the beginning of my rivalry with my greatest enemy, Enoch. Years have passed since I was born into the emblem family, and if I had to pick a favorite person, it would be my dad. Just as I'm about to give up, my dad appears and reaches for me. He saves me from the endless meal, understanding I've had enough. I'm so happy that he's the one person who truly gets it. Not only does he understand me, but he's also incredibly handsome. Just thinking about him makes me smile, leaving the staff to worry about the meal. And so, I lived happily, spending my days reading stories with my dad. He asks if I want to hear more, and of course I'm absolutely thrilled. But our peaceful time is interrupted by the arrival of the family head. My grandfather is here, and my mood immediately sours at the news. I just can't stand his arrogant and overbearing personality. My dad notices my discomfort and tries to reassure me about his intentions. He asks me to trust his words, making me wonder if I've misjudged him. I start to reconsider, remembering all the rare and expensive foods he provides. I wonder how my dad even gets all these rare ingredients for me. But my grandfather arrives, immediately criticizing my skinny arms and legs. I'm absolutely shocked by his incredibly rude greeting. He even says I'm impudent, just like my mother was. His words are so annoying, and I'm completely furious with him. But Dad says he's just worried and thinks I'm pretty. I give my dad a skeptical look, not believing a word. Grandfather then changes the subject, asking if I can walk yet. The tension between him and my father is incredibly thick. I realize he came here just to test my development. Dad proudly tells him I can already run, not just walk. Grandfather is furious to learn he missed my first steps. Suddenly, the entire room begins to violently shake. I get scared thinking it's an earthquake, but Dad calms me down. Dad says he's just upset, but Grandfather is radiating pure rage. He screams another family head's name and dashes out of the room. The speed at which he left was completely inhuman. I later found out what had actually happened that day. Jade Grey had sent a letter, taunting him about missing my milestone. I realize he's just bad at expressing himself, just like Dad said. She realizes her father really does care. He's just a classic tsundere. Today, they're visiting the Grey Ducal house, and she reminds herself that despite her appearance, she has the mind of an adult. Her mother, however, can't stop gushing over how adorable she is. Both her parents are completely smitten, much to her internal embarrassment. They're worried about a boy named Enoch falling for her at first sight. That's when she remembers she's about to meet her fiancé, Enoch Grey. Meeting him this young could change the future, and she starts to panic. She tries to get her mother's attention, hoping to go back home. But it's too late. The Grey family, including Enoch, has just arrived. The Grey family arrives, and the matriarch happily calls out to Circea's mother. The two women embrace, revealing they are actually very close friends. Circea realizes the rumors about their families being enemies were completely wrong. Her mother then remembers the real reason for their meeting today. She proudly introduces her daughter, Circea, to the Grey family. Dana is so charmed, she jokingly wants to take Circea home with her. Circea's mother then prompts Dana to introduce her own son. Dana calls over her husband, who is holding their baby boy, Enoch. Circea stares, finally seeing her future fiancé as a baby. As they're placed together, she notices something strange about his gaze. Circea is told to greet Enoch, but she feels queasy just looking at him. Their mothers find the children's awkwardness adorable and encourage them to interact. But Circea feels dizzy and gets an overwhelming urge to do something. She suddenly lunges forward and hits him right in the face. Circea is stunned by her own actions, while Enoch is knocked to the ground. She can't believe she hit him, but she thinks he looked ready to strike first. Both mothers are completely shocked by Circea's sudden outburst. The fathers are also in disbelief, trying to understand what they just saw. Everyone realizes that Circea actually hit the baby Enoch, and then, with a trembling lip, Enoch begins to wail. But instead of just crying, Enoch charges at Circea to fight back. He throws a tiny punch, which she finds completely adorable. Circea easily dodges his clumsy attempt to get even with her. Enoch loses his balance and tumbles right onto the floor, wailing. She thinks his moves are slow. This is child's play for a former detective. The four parents are left completely speechless by the baby's confrontation. Enoch's father finally steps in, picking up his crying son. He holds his feisty baby, who is still throwing a tantrum. Circea then looks up at her mom, realizing she's in trouble too. Her mother scolds her for hitting Enoch, but Circea says he fell. Her mother insists she apologize, stressing the importance of this meeting. She presents Circea to Enoch's mother, but Dana says an apology isn't needed. But her mom pushes her forward, telling her to blow on him as an apology. Instead of blowing, Circea ends up throwing up all over Enoch's face. The mothers are left completely stunned and horrified by the turn of events. Circea realizes she's made quite the first impression on her fiancé. After that disastrous meeting, the family finally heads home in their carriage. Her mother, Mel, carefully steps down from the carriage. Her husband rushes to help her, calling out her name in concern. He asks if she's all right, noticing she looks completely drained from the day. Circea felt sorry, believing she had disappointed her entire family. But a loud voice suddenly booms, asking for his beautiful granddaughter. A man rushes forward, proudly praising her for what she did. Circea points in confusion, realizing this must be her grandfather. It turns out, not everyone was disappointed in her actions that day. 6 years later, a maid frantically searches for Circea in the woods. The young Circea glances back at her maid, Cecilia, who is chasing her. Cecilia calls out, reminding her that the banquet is starting soon. She scolds Circea for getting her very expensive designer dress dirty. Hearing the dress is worth a house, Circea gasps in shock. Cecilia calls her a master of trouble, but Circea quietly apologizes. She runs off again, admitting she just wanted to avoid Enoch. Thinking she's escaped, she recalls how unpleasant their meetings always are. Suddenly she hears a nearby stream and thinks it's perfect. She complains about Enoch and her annoying family problems while running. All she wants is to drink some water and enjoy her freedom. But a sudden voice startles her as she reaches the water's edge. It's Enoch, the very person she was trying to escape from. He says he was also hiding to avoid her, which infuriates Circea. They bicker, both annoyed at finding the other in their hiding spot. Circea demands he leave, but Enoch claims he was actually there first. He smugly lies down, turning her own logic against her. She's fuming, wondering why she always loses arguments to this kid. But then she notices something strange attached to Enoch's waist. She splashes through the water, demanding to know what he's carrying. Getting closer, she asks him if the object is even real. She points out it's a sword, which he says was a gift. He confirms he's learning swordsmanship to become a knight, as expected of a Grey. He then asks if she, an emblem, has started her training yet. Circia looks away, vaguely saying she's interested in swords since she's from a knight family. She thinks it's cool, admitting it's her first time seeing one up close. Internally, she recalls her exhausting past life and wants to avoid another hard one. She tells Enoch that training is just too painful, and she doesn't want to do it. He grabs her, shocked, yelling that she can't just refuse to learn. As the only child of House Emblem, he insists that it's her duty. She warns him to let go, feeling sick, which makes him release her. He keeps his distance, then asks if she's really quitting swordsmanship for good. After she confirms it, he clenches his fist, looking incredibly frustrated. He suddenly tells her that if she quits, she'll just become boring, because she'll be weak and House Emblem will decline without a successor knight. She looks at him, her expression hardening as she begins to speak. Suddenly, she explodes with pure, unrestrained fury at his words. His insults about her becoming weak and her family declining echo in her mind. She questions if he really understands what he's saying to her. Her anger reaches its peak as she screams at the boy. She agrees with him, but only that he was right to anger her. With a yell, she throws a punch directly at his face. She easily overpowers him, leaving the young boy defeated on the grass. The scene transitions, showing water dripping from a bucket. For her actions, she's punished by holding the heavy bucket for her mother. Her mother asks if she understands, but Sir feels completely unheard. Internally, she fumes that the boy provoked her and deserved the outcome. Her mother scolds her for not reflecting on her actions against Enoch. Suddenly, her grandfather bursts in, asking about the fight with the boy. Instead of scolding her, he celebrates what he calls a glorious victory. She's touched by his unconditional support, even though she knows she was wrong. Overwhelmed, she begins to cry, wishing her mother had listened to her. She explains Enoch called her boring for not wanting to learn swordsmanship. He also insulted her family's honor, saying the emblems would decline. Her grandfather proudly hugs her, praising the smallest and most honorable emblem. He says she protected their honor from that gray brat, but she remains silent. Later that night, the mansion is quiet under the full moon. Sir lies awake, still hurt by her mother's misunderstanding and her sore arms. Suddenly, she hears someone quietly entering her room. Not wanting to talk, she quickly pretends to be asleep as her mother approaches. Her mother watches over her, thinking her daughter is sleeping. She gently touches Sir's arm, realizing how upset she must have been. She applies a soothing patch, revealing Enoch was also scolded and ran away. Her mother admits they both went too far, hurting their children in the process. She whispers an apology, kissing her forehead and saying she loves her most. Her mother thinks Sir's anger comes from her growing pride as an emblem. She smiles, proud of how much her daughter has matured. As she leaves, she whispers a final "I love you." But Sir wasn't asleep and slowly sits up in her bed. She calls out for her mom, looking deeply unsettled. Her mother's comforting words strangely fill her with a sense of dread. This fear stems from her past life, where her parents were cruel. After they were gone, she was fortunate enough to be adopted. Her new parents promised to help her and give her a home. Her adoptive father even promised that they would treasure her. For the first time in her life, she was truly happy. She believed all her suffering was just to finally meet them. But the night she was to move in, she found a crime scene. She watched in horror as a body was carried from the house. Then she spotted a familiar watch on the victim's wrist. She tried to rush past the police line, desperate for answers. But they were gone, and she refused to believe the official story. So she grew up determined to uncover the truth about their deaths. She never got to experience parental love in that life, which is why she's now terrified of losing her new mother. It was a feeling she'd never experienced. A mother who cares so deeply. Maybe all her past suffering was to lead her to this happiness. She steps out onto the balcony, feeling at peace with her new family. The cool night air feels refreshing, despite her lingering annoyance at Enoch. She fumes about how he acted so smug just for calling her boring. But after venting her frustrations, she feels so much better and relieved. Her peaceful moment is interrupted by a sudden rustling sound from the garden. She looks over the railing, wondering if someone has snuck onto the grounds. Down in the bushes, she spots a figure with glowing white hair. She squints, wondering if it's the same annoying boy she knows. It's the boy, Enoch, kneeling in the garden looking dejected. She cautiously approaches, asking who he is as he pulls at the grass. "It's you, sir. What are you doing here?" he asks, but she fires back the question. He awkwardly explains that he's just pulling weeds in the middle of the night. He seems incredibly nervous and flustered by her sudden appearance. She's clearly not buying his strange excuse for being out here. Annoyed, she tells him to continue and turns to leave, but he calls out. She warns him that people will find her soon, so he should speak quickly. But she notices his unusual hesitation, which is very out of character for him. He finally musters the courage to apologize, admitting he went too far earlier. He explains he felt bad for insulting her emblem and got upset. She's completely taken aback by his sincere apology. Without a word, she suddenly closes the distance between them. She cups his face, asking if he's okay, which flusters him. She leans in even closer to get a better look at him. Then she checks his temperature, thinking he might have a fever. He's completely overwhelmed by her sudden closeness. In a panic, he suddenly shoves her away from him. He instantly regrets it, while she questions his strange reaction. As he apologizes again, she notes how unlike himself he's acting. She tells him to stop apologizing and just go back home. She mentions his aunt is leaving, but he coldly says he doesn't care. She realizes he's sulking about his aunt, but he insists he's just angry. He says he learned swordsmanship for her, and this is just too much. He then collapses to the ground, completely overwhelmed by his emotions. She looks at him, thinking he is definitely just sulking. She walks over to him and quietly asks if he's crying. He denies it, telling her to just go away and leave him alone. He suddenly yells that his mother was banished because of their engagement. He's training relentlessly just for a chance to live with his mom again. He says his grandfather promised to bring his mom back if he wins the duel. He must be the first Grey to ever defeat an emblem in a duel. He tearfully begs her to pick up a sword, as it's his only chance. She finally understands why he was so angry about her quitting swordsmanship. He asks if she understands his feelings now, but she has a question. She asks why he's so sure he'll win, and he declares he's a genius. He says she just eats and plays all day, so there's no way he'd lose. She's furious, thinking he definitely has a talent for making people angry. He flinches as she raises her fist, but she says she's holding back. She points at him, vowing that she will never, ever lose to him. Enoch is stunned by her fierce declaration of rivalry. He excitedly accepts her challenge, finally seeing her as a rival. And so began a fierce competition between Saoirse and Enoch. Saoirse immediately begins her intense swordsmanship training. She focuses all her energy on striking the training dummy. She relentlessly attacks every part of the dummy with fury. Her instructor tries to get her attention, looking concerned. He finally yells for Lady Saoirse to stop her training. He scolds her for beating the dummy instead of slashing it. He realizes her fury comes from her emblem bloodline. He asks her if she truly wants to defeat Grey. Saoirse screams that she wants to beat Enoch with her sword, but her master warns that reckless swinging will only lead to her defeat. As punishment for her outburst, she has to run 5 more laps. While running, she remembers how Enoch's insults fueled her determination. Her desire to win was simple, but their rivalry was viewed differently by others. Her parents, for instance, were simply worried about her, while her grandfather was already celebrating her future victory over the Greys. News of their duel spreads, surprising the public who thought they made peace. People speculate they're fighting for the position of the Emperor's guard knight. The public celebrates the news, treating the rivalry as a festival. This news even reaches the highest authority in the Empire. The Emperor himself walks through the grand throne room. Emperor Markian Leopold Rutinas takes his seat, looking amused. He's heard the rumors about Saoirse learning to use a sword. His advisor confirms the renewed rivalry, which pleases the Emperor. He decides to pit the 7-year-olds against each other in a hunting tournament. When his advisor objects, the Emperor's demeanor turns cold and threatening. The terrified advisor immediately falls to his knees and begs for forgiveness. The Emperor forgives him, but with a new command to bring someone back. The advisor asks who he means, as the Emperor thinks of the 2 rivals. The Emperor wants to introduce them to the next Emperor, who must be curious. He wonders which of the 2 children will be more loyal to the young heir. He wants to see who will become a faithful sword, willing to sacrifice everything. Meanwhile, Saoirse's mother worries about the intensity of her daughter's training. Her father dismisses her concerns, but she fears Saoirse will get hurt. He angrily insists their family bloodline is strong, and she's just driven to win. Her mother realizes someone is fueling her rivalry with news about Enoch. Her father angrily vows to find and punish whoever is instigating this. A flashback shows a trainer pushing Saoirse to her absolute physical limit. The trainer shouts that pain is the only proof of her growth. He's then told how Enoch has already mastered horizontal slashing. This news is used to push Saoirse even harder, comparing her to Enoch. Fueled by rage, she screams Enoch's name while training intensely. Back in the present, her mother calmly sips her tea. Her father suddenly leaves, claiming he has urgent business to attend to. Just then, the butler bursts into the room with an urgent message. He announces an invitation from the Imperial Palace for a hunting tournament. She's confused, as they already received one, but he insists this is different. This new invitation is addressed directly to Princess Saoirse herself. She's confused, and the butler adds the messengers headed straight for Grey territory. She realizes this means Enoch Grey likely received the same invitation. She questions the Emperor's motives for making young children compete against each other. She concludes he must dislike the harmony between the noble families. The tournament is being held in Mitro Forest, a place known for monsters. She has a terrible feeling, flashing back to a memory of her daughter. She worries that something bad is going to happen to her precious Sarah. Meanwhile, a carriage arrives at the Condrias earldom. Her husband tries to calm her, saying the area will be safe. He tells her to trust in their daughter's abilities. The other girls cry, jealous that Sir gets to be with Enoch. Sir, completely fed up, tells them to just enter the tournament themselves. But one girl insists it's not fair that only Sir gets to marry him. Sir explodes, shouting that she doesn't even want to marry Enoch. She shocks them all by declaring she would rather marry her own dad. She proudly claims her dad is far better and tells them to look behind them. The girls turn around, seeing a man's reflection in the glass. A close-up reveals a man with striking golden eyes. It's her father, who gives them a charming and gentle smile. The girls are instantly captivated by his handsome appearance. The girls are now completely obsessed with her father, bombarding her with questions. Thankfully, she's pulled away from the chaos, finally getting a moment of peace. They've finally arrived at the magnificent banquet hall for the hunting tournament. She's amazed by how glamorous the event is, filled with so many nobles. The entire hall is decorated with dazzling and extravagant chandeliers. Inside, the atmosphere is lively as guests mingle and socialize. Suddenly, a woman excitedly points out the arrival of the Grey Ducal house. She quickly rushes off, eager to make their acquaintance. Duke Jade Grey arrives with a young boy, reminding him everyone is watching. He sternly tells the boy to prove he is superior to Emblem. The boy nervously addresses him as family head. But the Duke reminds him to just call him grandfather. The boy, Enoch, asks if the famous Sir has arrived yet. His grandfather notes the hall would be noisier if the hero were here. Enoch confidently believes he will never lose to this Sir. Meanwhile, in another room, a suitcase is placed on the floor. A young girl with red hair sighs, clearly exhausted from her journey. A maid named Cecilia leaves the luggage for Lady Saoirse. She then informs Saoirse her parents are dining out tonight. Saoirse is shocked she won't see her parents, but the maid just leaves. The maid offers a quick farewell before shutting the door. Saoirse can't believe even Cecilia left her all alone. She realizes with a shock that it's her 7th birthday. Forgetting her past life, she's upset about being left alone. The hurt feels surprisingly real and she wonders why. Deciding to sleep it off, she hears a comforting voice. Soon, she drifts off into a deep sleep. A little while later, her bedroom door creaks open. A mysterious figure watches over her, noticing her tear-stained face. They gently stroke her hair, promising a better day ahead. The next morning, Saoirse is woken up by her maid, Cecilia. Cecilia tells her to keep the blindfold on and follow her somewhere. Confused, Saoirse asks what's happening, but Cecilia remains mysterious. She's led away, still grumbling about her plans for the day. Cecilia announces their arrival and prepares to remove the blindfold. When her eyes are uncovered, she's met with a shower of confetti. Her father stands before her, wishing her a happy birthday with a gift. Completely stunned, she learns this was all a surprise party for her. She's moved to tears, realizing her parents never forgot her birthday. Excitedly, she begins to open the large present from her father. She stares into the box, completely at a loss for words. Inside is a magnificent, custom-made longsword just for her. It's even engraved with a message for the Saoirse emblem. Overwhelmed with joy, she looks at her father, who asks if she likes it. She remembers begging for a real sword, but he said she wasn't strong enough. Back then, she had thrown a fit, wanting to beat her rival, Enoch. He remembered her wish and even crafted the beautiful sword himself. But that's not all. He also got her an official emblem knight uniform. She thanks him, but he hints that the surprises aren't over yet. Suddenly, she hears a voice and turns to see a large group of people. She looks up and sees her mother standing among the knights. Her mother's voice calls out, telling her to come closer. She reveals she'll be Saoirse's first sparring partner as a joining gift. Saoirse asks if her mother finally acknowledges her as a knight. Her mother confirms with a smile, warning she won't hold back. Overwhelmed with joy, Saoirse wipes her tears, ready for the challenge. She confidently raises her sword, telling her mother to be prepared. Her mother smirks, eager to see her daughter's skills in action. With a determined shout, Saoirse rushes forward to begin the duel. The mother calls her name as their blades are about to meet. With one swing, her mother sends Saoirse flying through the air. She laughs, admitting she might have used a little too much strength. Later, Saoirse lies in a tree, wishing her mom had gone easier. The scene shifts to Saoirse enjoying a strawberry drink at a social event. She observes how popular her mother, Lady Melercia, is among the guests. Her father tells her that one day she could receive the same admiration, but Saoirse believes becoming like her mother is an impossible dream for her. She clenches her fist, feeling she lacks talent compared to the famous Enoch. This fear of losing to him has made her uneasy about the tournament. She wonders if her training means anything if she can't even win. She wonders if losing to Enoch means she'll have to give up her sword. Her thoughts are interrupted by girls fawning over the newly arrived Lord Grey. They eagerly ask the young Lord Enoch for cookies and a dance. But he politely refuses, saying he must stay with his grandfather. Cercia is annoyed by his overly mature and formal way of speaking. She finds him so irritating that she can't help but glare at him. Enoch notices her stare and glares right back, surprising Cercia. Suddenly, an announcer heralds the arrival of the Emperor and Crown Prince. The entire hall turns its attention to the grand entrance in awe. The Emperor and the young Crown Prince make their grand appearance before the crowd. While Cercia is impressed, others murmur about the Crown Prince's presence. She asks her father, who explains the prince has been chronically ill. He's had several close calls, which is why everyone is so worried. Cercia looks at the young prince, feeling a sense of pity for him. The Crown Prince seems to notice her gaze from across the hall. He then offers a gentle smile and a small wave toward the crowd. Cercia is surprised, thinking he seems frail but very kind-hearted. She asks her father if the archbishop could heal the prince with divine power. Her father explains that even if the prince could be healed, it wouldn't protect him from those who put him in danger. Cercia realizes the prince is already in a very dangerous situation. She knows the greatest honor is to be his sword, but fears Enoch will be chosen. Still, she's determined to become the knight who can protect His Highness. Just then, His Majesty the Emperor arrives with the young Crown Prince. The Emperor greets Duke Grey, mentioning he's heard rumors about his grandson. The Duke proudly presents his grandson, the talented young Enoch Grey. Enoch introduces himself, and the Emperor notes he'll be a good match for the prince. He then instructs the Crown Prince to go and greet the future commander. The Emperor then leaves the two boys in the care of Lord Grey. He tells the Duke that the prince will need a close friend when he's king. The Emperor entrusts the boys to Duke Grey's care. The Duke finds the Emperor's sudden favor a bit suspicious. He knows the Imperial Guard position has always gone to the Emblem family, but he believes his genius grandson Enoch might finally secure it for them. Just then, someone enthusiastically greets the Crown Prince. The prince is surprised by the sudden, cheerful greeting. It's Lord Benedict, and he's brought a young boy with him. The boy elegantly presents himself to His Highness. He introduces himself as Cercia Emblem. The Crown Prince is stunned to meet Enoch's rival. The Crown Prince is thrilled to meet Cercia, wanting to discuss a book. He's a huge fan of a book about the founding hero, Emblem, but his excitement gets the better of him, and he suddenly feels unwell. Everyone is concerned, but the prince insists he's fine, just a bit overexcited. Cercia looks on with concern as the adults suggest he should go rest. The prince tries to downplay his condition, saying he should probably leave now, but Cercia gives him a pleading look, silently asking him not to go. Cercia's father then invites the prince to visit their mansion another time. Cercia feels sorry for the prince, who is too sick to even play outside, so he promises to show him the legendary sword from the book during his visit. The prince is completely captivated by Cercia's promise, calling it amazing. Cercia cheerfully waves goodbye, wishing the prince a speedy recovery. His father also wishes the Grey family head well at the banquet. The Emperor commends Cercia's father for inviting the Crown Prince so smoothly. Meanwhile, the second prince, Enoch, feels a strange sense of impending defeat. The scene then shifts to the entrance of Mitro Forest for an event. An announcer hypes up a fierce competition for the children of nobles. It's the Mitro Forest hunting tournament, hosted by the Emperor himself. Elsewhere, a mother in armor asks her son what she always says is most important. He remembers her lesson. Never take your eyes off the prey until the end. He wonders what he's best at, and his mother gives a cryptic hint. He asks if it's potions, but it's time for him to go. A man assures them the youth section will only have small herbivores, but the boy confidently tells his mom not to worry because he's strong. When the youth division is called, he eagerly runs off to join them. His mother tells him it's better to lose than get hurt, but he disagrees. He immediately realizes he said the opposite of what he meant to say. His real goal is to beat Enoch now before he gets any stronger. With determination, he sprints into the forest, vowing to win against Enoch. In the forest, he's annoyed by a boy who seems to be using magic. The red-haired girl introduces herself to the other nobles as Cercia Emblem. She suddenly realizes the hunt has started and frantically asks where Enoch is. Panicked, she exclaims that Enoch must have gone on ahead without her. She dashes into the forest, determined that she absolutely cannot lose. The other two boys decide to wait, planning to tell her to give up. They believe it's a fight they are destined to lose against her anyway. Suddenly, a bunch of rabbits just drop to the ground nearby. Cercia returns, confused about what the two boys are doing just standing there. They explain they're gathering the prey that she and Enoch already caught. She's surprised, but tells them to go hunt for their own score now. The boys explain that for lower nobles, winning or losing is just a headache. Their father told them to give up if they were grouped with Emblem or Gray, because if they lose it's expected, and if they win they're seen as traitors. Circia tightens her grip on her sword, listening to their hopeless words. She suddenly erupts, shouting that they're wrong about everything from the start. She tells them being in this group is like winning the lottery. The boys are confused, but she insists they won't be traitors for winning. She explains that all the nobles are here to watch the two great houses clash. It's like watching two of the biggest houses in the nation catch fire. So what happens if a smaller house next to them burns even brighter? She asks if people will curse them for blocking the main event. Or will they simply enjoy watching the new, more exciting show? If they defeat her or Enoch, the major knight orders will notice them. After all, they'd have beaten the genius Circia and the mediocre Enoch. As she's motivating them, she's suddenly interrupted by a familiar face. It's Enoch, who just heard himself being called mediocre. Circia gets flustered, but Enoch calmly quotes his grandfather. He drops the boar he was carrying, saying none of that matters, because a true knight only needs to speak with their sword. He then asks the two boys if they've had their talk yet. Circia admits they haven't actually talked to each other yet. The boy stammers that not everyone has a strong heart like them. He thought this was just a way to get through the test. Circia recognizes him as Olivia Boldmore's brother, surprising him. She remembers his sister's annoying voice from the carriage ride. She then mentions that his brother wanted to join the Emblem Knights. She offers a hint on how to impress the Emblem commander. Her mom likes people who stand up to her and fight back. This advice seems to absolutely terrify the poor boy. He suddenly gets fired up, ready to show what lower nobility can do. He gives the other team a 30-minute head start for the hunt. His brother teases him for wanting to rest, but he's told to be quiet. The two boys get fired up, declaring they won't be holding back. They then charge into the forest, ready to sweep through the area. Watching them go, she thinks they're cute, but he gets her attention. He asks if he ever mentioned his personal reason for joining the tournament. He reveals that winning this tournament means he can live with his mother. She's overjoyed by his news, even more so than he seems to be. He then cheekily asks if she'll go easy on him so he can win. She playfully refuses, promising to crush him, which is what he expected. He says he prefers it that way, which is why he told her. She then realizes he no longer gets sick when she's this close. Staring into his eyes, she finds them strangely and familiarly captivating. He gets flustered by her intense gaze, snapping her out of her thoughts. Suddenly, a little girl appears, telling them not to marry each other. They recognize the tearful girl as Olivia, looking incredibly upset. She stomps her way towards them, clearly on a mission. Olivia accuses Circia of being a liar for not marrying her dad. She yells that Circia was supposed to marry her dad, not Enoch. Circia is completely overwhelmed by the sudden and confusing accusation. Circia demands to know how Olivia got into the dangerous area. Enoch calmly explains the real dangers and that entry is restricted. He warns that sneaking into an imperial tournament has serious consequences for her family. Olivia panics, admitting she just wanted to see Enoch with her brother. She tearfully begs them not to tell her parents about this. Circia worries about the dishonor this could bring to another noble family. Olivia protests, worried for her brother, but Circia knows it's her fault. Circia is deep in thought, trying to figure out what to do. She needs to protect Lord Osric's honor and get Olivia out safely. The pressure is on as she tries to come up with a plan. She remembers her goal to win against Enoch. Back at the tournament grounds, the event is underway. A signal is given to begin the proceedings. The Emperor receives a report from his knight. The Crown Prince asks why his father is smiling. The Emperor is simply curious about who will win the tournament. The Prince predicts that Gray will be the victor this time. He explains that protecting the weak is more important than winning. He saw a young lady follow Circia into the forest earlier. Therefore, Circia will lose if she has to protect her. The prince sips his wine, finding this new development quite amusing. Meanwhile, Circia struggles with how to handle this and still win against Enoch. She considers sacrificing Olivia, trying to justify that it's all her fault anyway. The weight of her decision brings her to tears in the quiet forest. But after a moment of reflection, she comes to a firm conclusion. She tells a shocked Osric that she has decided to forfeit the match. Reassuring a tearful Olivia, she says this will ensure Osric's safety. Circia offers to escort Olivia out, despite Olivia's protests about her training. She admits it's disappointing but won't win by ignoring someone in need. It's her family's duty to protect the weak, a principle she must uphold. Osric apologizes but asks Circia what her forfeit means for his safety. Circia smiles, insisting that Osric must still participate in the hunting tournament. She explains they cannot move together because everyone is watching their actions closely. Cercia reminds Osric he has a very important reason why he absolutely must win. Osric confirms his motivation is his mother, whom he has been waiting for. Cercia pats Olivia's shoulder, urging her to win so she won't be embarrassed. Osric watches Cercia, realizing she must also have a powerful reason to win. Cercia reassures a surprised Olivia that she will ensure her safe return. Olivia suddenly trembles, pointing out something terrifying in the darkness ahead. They are confronted by a massive, menacing boar with glowing red eyes and tusks. Cercia recognizes the terrifying creatures as a monster stag and boar demon. She wonders why a low-grade monster is here when the area was cleared. She pulls Olivia behind her, recalling her mother's lessons about these monsters. These beasts are known to leave their territory to hunt humans. Suddenly, Enoch appears, calmly identifying it as just a low-grade monster. But Cercia knows this is too much for even a genius like him. If she doesn't stop it, Olivia and the others will be in danger. Stealing her resolve, she grips the sword her family gave to her. Thinking of her father, she prepares to face the beast head-on. Despite her fear, she knows she has no other choice but to fight. Cercia confirms her decision to fight as the massive beast steps closer. She raises her family sword, embracing her role as her father's proud daughter. Cercia steals her resolve, defining herself as a knight who protects the weak. As the monster charges, she remembers her mother's crucial hunting advice. She asks herself what she is best at, preparing for the confrontation. Cercia realizes she must rely on the movements she practiced hundreds of times. She sprints toward the giant creature, trusting what her body remembers instinctively. The sharp blade of her sword flashes forward with incredible speed and precision. Cercia connects with the beast, striking a powerful blow against its defenses. The creature lets out a loud cry of pain as Cercia calls out for Enoch. Her signal snaps Enoch out of his shock. He yells with determination, knowing he must end this. Pushing off the ground, he rushes forward with speed. He leaps into the air, preparing for the final strike. His sword comes down directly onto the weakened creature. The monster dissolves into nothingness before his eyes. As the rain falls, he wonders if they've truly won. But then he sees Cercia collapsed on the muddy ground. She struggles to push herself up, completely drained of energy. Enoch turns to her, his voice filled with concern. He stands motionless in the rain, replaying the battle in his mind. He realizes he just stood there, completely useless during the fight. This feeling of helplessness was the absolute worst part of it all. He then remembers hearing Cercia desperately shouting his name. From the ground, she had yelled at him to finish the monster off. Her voice was the only thing that could make his frozen legs move. He charged forward, finally swinging his sword at the creature. She woke him from his trance when he was unable to even move. Her guidance made him strike the monster's vital point. Because of this, he feels this victory is actually his complete defeat. The sword is left in the monster's body as rain pours down. Exhausted, she sits down and asks if the fight is finally over. But the girl she saved suddenly starts crying out for her rescuer. She tearfully thanks the red-haired girl for saving her life. The words, "I'm alive because of you," hit her unexpectedly. Suddenly, a voice from the woods startles her. Two boys appear, shocked to find Olivia amidst the bloody scene. They then spot the monster's body and Enoch Gray standing there. The red-haired girl, Osric, quickly gives Enoch credit for the kill. She tells them to take Olivia and leave before chaos breaks out. Osric urges them to leave, saying there's no time for explanations. She then tells Enoch she'll make sure the others get away safely. As they leave, Enoch effortlessly carries the large monster on his shoulder. Once they're gone, Osric sighs and turns her attention back to Enoch. She immediately confronts him, asking why he lied about the kill. He plays dumb, but she sees a disturbing vision from her past. Pointing at him, she has a sudden, terrifying realization. She covers her mouth, completely stunned by what she's seeing. Why does Enoch look just like someone from her previous life? She remembers the one who ended her life wasn't working alone. She recalls her enemy's right-hand man, the strategist behind everything. In her memory, he taunts her for being late once again. He smirks, asking if she missed him on purpose. She glares, recognizing her old adversary, Yoon Do-yoon. The vision overlays onto Enoch and she calls him her enemy. Enoch, startled by her outburst, tells her to stay away. Snapping back to reality, she wonders why their faces looked the same. He wipes the blood from his hair, asking if she's all right. With his hair clean, the disturbing vision finally fades away. She realizes Enoch is nothing like the cruel man from her past. She realizes he's just rude, not a bad person, as he begins to speak. He suddenly plants his sword into the ground with a determined look. Pointing his blade at her, he says they should settle things now. He challenges her to a proper sword match to prove their skills. Confused, she reminds him that he was the one who defeated the monster, but he wants to determine who is truly superior through a duel. She insists he delivered the final blow. but he mentions his family name. He refuses to accept a victory that was handed to him by his status. Furious, she yells that she never intended to give him the victory. She screams that she only called for help because she dropped her sword. She admits that if he hadn't finished it, she would have died right there. She then points out that his own hands are completely torn up from the fight. Still, she tells him not to get cocky just because he won this round. She vows there will be plenty of chances for her to defeat him in the future. They stand opposite each other in the rain, the tension settling between them. He looks down, quietly considering everything she just said to him. She then asks if he plans to continue learning swordsmanship from now on. Though she finds him disagreeable, she's grateful he inspired her to learn the sword. Her eyes remind him of a girl he once saved who thanked him for her life. It was the same reason he became a detective, to bring peace to others. At first it was for revenge, but she found joy in saving someone's life. She remembers the first time she protected someone with her own hands. The thrilling feeling of striking the monster's weak point was unforgettable. In that moment, she realized how much she truly loved the sword. A young boy with white hair watches her, completely taken aback. He observes that she seems genuinely happy learning to fight. Something seems to click for him in that moment. The scene changes to a grand celebration, with people shouting his name, Enoch! He walks through a cheering crowd, celebrated as a hero. The people call him a genius for defeating a monster so young. But amidst all the praise, Enoch seems deeply troubled. His grandfather, Duke Grey, proudly accepts congratulations for his grandson's victory. He declares Enoch will be the first Grey to serve the Crown Prince. From his seat, the Crown Prince watches the Duke with amusement. The Duke glares back, understanding the situation's complexity. The Prince acknowledges that the Duke has seen through his plan. He points out that Enoch's victory benefits the Duke's ambitions. Their political maneuvering is like a complex game of chess. With this win, the Duke can now push for the Imperial Guard position. The Prince asks for a move in return, calling the Duke Master. After the tournament, Lord Emblem and her companion look on with concern. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a quiet forest path. A voice calls out to her, and she turns to see who it is. It's the Marchioness of Boldmore, who has something important to say. To her surprise, the Marchioness and her daughter suddenly bow in apology. She explains that her daughter Olivia confessed to following Circia into the forest, and that Circia bravely protected the young girl from a monster attack. Olivia adds that Circia was only slightly injured while saving her. The little girl tearfully apologizes for her thoughtless actions and causing trouble. Lord Emblem lets out a quiet sigh, finally understanding the situation. Circia's mother says it's an honor for a knight to protect Lady Boldmore. The young Olivia looks up, listening to her words. Her mother is visibly touched by the knight captain's grace. She then tells Olivia not to blame herself, as it was their duty. With the misunderstanding cleared, Circia's parents turn to leave. Olivia and her mother watch them go, filled with admiration. Just then, a rustling sound comes from the nearby bushes. Lord Emblem spots something and tells his wife to look. Circia emerges from the foliage, surprised to see her parents. They both cry out her name, completely shocked to find her there. Circia joyfully runs into her parents' arms, announcing her return. They share a warm and loving family embrace, overjoyed to be reunited. Her father asks if she enjoyed her time away, and she happily confirms it. She then turns to her mother with something important to say. Circia declares that she has fallen in love with swordsmanship. Her mother smiles, simply saying that's good. She holds her daughter close, telling her that her happiness is what matters. Meanwhile, elsewhere, 2 wooden swords shatter during intense training. A stern instructor spars with a young, white-haired boy. He warns the boy, Enoch, that hesitation in combat is fatal. He stresses that swordsmanship is learned through the body, not just the mind. Enoch unleashes a powerful strike, surprising his teacher. The broken remnant of the sword clatters to the ground. Impressed, the instructor praises Enoch and concludes their training for the day. While others praise his tournament victory, Enoch appears lost in thought. He reflects internally that the time has finally arrived. He recalls the hunting tournament and the moment he faced the monster. He admits the truth. When danger struck, Sir moved and he didn't. His mind flashes back to that day in the sunlit forest. He remembers sitting frozen under a tree, completely unable to act. He reads a letter from his mother, feeling unworthy of her praise. She wrote that his success in the tournament would bring her home. She was even willing to bow to the family head to return. He clutched her words, trying to find some comfort in them. He was hopeful they'd reunite, but then his mother went missing. Back at the Grey Mansion, the tournament's aftermath was being discussed. Sir's outstanding performance during the incident was being praised. A man commends the boy for defeating a monster at such a young age. He then turns to the Duke, seeking his agreement on the matter. but the Duke accuses him of releasing that monster in the first place. The man taunts him, asking if the Boldmore lady was part of his plan. The Duke realizes he knew and demands to know what he's scheming. He accuses him of endangering children's lives during the Imperial tournament. The man justifies it as a necessary test for future commanders, claiming it was safe. He points out that Sir's abilities were showcased, asking if the Duke didn't want that. This was all to make Sir the next sword of the Emperor. He wants the Grey House to produce the Imperial Guard for the Crown Prince. The Duke realizes this would be the victory his family has always wanted, but he's suspicious, questioning why he's being offered his greatest desire. The man explains that the Empire needs a new kind of knight, a genius who will protect the people, a knight like Enoch Grey. He claims Enoch could be this era's hero, but the Duke is still doubtful. He knows genius isn't enough and asks what the man truly wants. The Imperial family would never favor his house without a hidden motive. The man takes a step forward, closing the distance between them. The Duke seems to finally understand the situation with a sigh. He asks Your Majesty if he can speak freely as he did long ago. The royal Markian smiles and encourages his old master to speak. The Duke then brings up Dana, who was sent to Crichton by Imperial order. He asks if something has happened to her, but Markian's face is unreadable. Markian says this makes things easier, as a tattered, bloodied flag is shown. The Duke realizes the offer for Enoch is to keep Dana's disappearance quiet. Markian confirms this is how they will settle his daughter's disappearance. He calls it politics, a game where the Duke has no choice but to accept. Furious, the Duke asks if this is what he taught him, calling him a coward. Markian is stunned as the Duke says he's just afraid of being scolded. He accuses Markian of plotting all night on how to silence a grieving father. Markian tries to justify his actions, but the Duke demands he admit the truth. The Duke points out a lesson that even the late Emperor understood. He passionately declares that an apology should always come first when you're wrong. He tells Markian to rule like the swordsman he was trained to be. A true warrior must never look away from the obstacles before them, because a moment's hesitation could be their last. He says he only nags because he doesn't want Markian to make an enemy. With his lecture finished, the Duke bows and prepares to leave. Markian watches him go, the Duke's words weighing heavily on him. He realizes he foolishly tried to be clever with his own master, so he calls out, asking his former master for help. He finally reveals the truth. The Empress is targeting the Crown Prince. That's why he wanted Enoch as the prince's guard, no matter what. Markian explains they need a knight willing to die for the Crown Prince. The Duke says Markian is finally showing his true familiar face. He predicts that with Dana gone, refugees will soon appear, and in the ensuing chaos, the Empress will make her move. The Duke foresees a violent struggle for the throne is imminent. Markian adds that Enoch's family ties to the Empress put him in danger. No matter who wins the power struggle, Enoch will be purged. He desperately begs his master to stop the Empress's ambitions. The Duke understands. Recalling Enoch's father is the Empress's brother. He then thinks of the innocent young prince caught in the middle. He can't bear the thought of the prince being sacrificed to a cruel fate. Meanwhile, at the Emblem estate, a butler asks if Sir is ready yet. Her father is reminded that he was supposed to have told her something. The butler reports that she refuses to attend the medal ceremony, which surprises him. He decides to go and speak with his daughter about it himself. He knocks on her door and is promptly told to come inside. Entering the room, he calls for his daughter but stops, confused by the scene. He finds her happily surrounded by friends as she greets her dad. She explains that Olivia and the maids came over to visit her. She then offers him some of the delicious desserts they brought along. He asks if this is rude, but she insists she asked for their help. Olivia explains that Sir wanted to help after she got hurt, saving her. Her father, a bit flustered, asks to speak with his daughter alone for a moment. He sits with her, saying this reminds him of her mother's childhood. He predicts she'll gain many followers, just like her mother did before her. He praises her for using her strength to protect others, which makes her happy. He then asks why she doesn't want to attend the medal ceremony for the hunt. She insists Enoch deserves the credit, but her dad says Enoch credited her too. She hesitates, fiddling with the box in her hands. He realizes she wants something else instead of the medal, and she stays quiet. She finally reveals her true request to her father. It's not about the medal, it's about her injured arm. Because of the splint, she's banned from sword practice and is incredibly bored. She begs him to let her train again, insisting she's already healed. Her dad gently reminds her the doctor and family head forbade it. She worries she'll forget her skills while Enoch keeps training. She apologizes for whining, admitting she's just upset about it. He's actually relieved, saying he worried she was growing up too fast. He understands her passion for the sword, saying it's in her blood. Then he hints that there might be a way, catching her by surprise. He reminds her that her dad is the strategist of Emblem, and she knew exactly who to ask for a solution. Later at a party, someone congratulates her on receiving her medal. She thanks them politely before noticing a familiar face. It's Lord Osric, who gratefully says he joined Emblem because of her. He asks about her arm, hearing she's already training again. She clarifies she's only doing lower body training, which confuses him. She brightly explains her dad's advice to train the uninjured parts of her body. Osric is completely stunned by her intense dedication to training. He smiles, remarking how her eyes shine when she talks about swords. She jokes that if she weren't engaged, she might have asked him out. Osric is completely flustered by her sudden and bold statement. Just then, Enoch appears, placing a hand on Osric's shoulder. Osric stammers nervously as Enoch dismisses him to get some food. She notices Enoch seems unusually tense as he sits down. He suddenly asks if she remembers that they are engaged. He stares at her intently, making her feel a bit uneasy. He brushes it off, saying he's just tired from the crowd. She reminds him he's the guest of honor, but he wants to leave. Nearby, some knights mock him for taking credit for the kill. One of the knights defends Enoch, saying he saved someone's life. He then insults the other knight for not knowing his place. The insulted knight retorts, calling him the head of a second-rate family. The man in white furiously denies being second place. They both square up, ready to settle their dispute right there. The knight in blue draws his sword, ready to prove his family's superiority. Seeing the situation escalate, Sir suggests they go find an adult. She looks at him, surprised by his sudden suggestion. Suddenly, a disturbing memory of a man and an injured Sir flashes by. She calls out his name in alarm, sensing his distress. He clutches his chest, the painful memory overwhelming him. Sir looks visibly shaken, sweat beading on his forehead. The blue-clad knights angrily demand that Sir be removed, but the white-clad faction is equally fired up for a fight. Both sides are ready to clash to prove who is superior. Just as things are about to explode, someone stumbles into the middle. He falls dramatically to the floor, right between the two groups. The knights are confused, asking who pushed the boy, but he smoothly explains he just tripped while trying to get through. His unexpected appearance leaves everyone completely stunned and speechless. The man introduces himself as Lord Edward, greeting everyone with a charming smile. He then greets Saoirse, who is shocked to see her uncle here. The young boy is even more stunned, recognizing him as his father. He casually mentions he was looking for them, talking about some delicious bread. He then politely asks the flustered commander for a tea time with the children. The commander quickly agrees, and Lord Edward thanks him for his cooperation. With the situation diffused, he places a hand on Saoirse's shoulder to leave. Saoirse agrees, realizing his charm just disarmed a tense standoff. He leads them away from the confrontation and into a private room. He tells them to rest for a bit before they come back out. Saoirse is confused, but Enoch explains Lord Edward is giving them an out. She finally understands the situation, much to Enoch's slight annoyance. As Lord Edward peeks in one last time, they wish him well. They both thank him before he finally closes the door. Alone, Saoirse sighs in relief, asking if the knights often fight. She then points out their other companion is resting on the sofa. But Enoch stares at her, asking about her behavior from earlier. He insists she knows exactly what he is talking about. He brings up how she avoided him when he suggested getting help. He asks if he made her uncomfortable, but then dismisses the thought. She tells him it doesn't matter, but he insists on knowing what's wrong. She hesitates, looking troubled by his persistent questioning. Instead of answering, she says she actually has a favor to ask him. She admits that something has been bothering her, but it's nothing huge. She'll only explain if he promises to grant her favor, no questions asked. He points out that's an order, so she quickly backs down. He pauses for a moment, looking at her with a conflicted expression. Finally, he agrees to her terms, and she's instantly delighted. She then instructs him to repeat after her, much to his confusion. With a serious look, she tells him to say the word detective. He hesitantly starts to repeat the word she told him to say, but he stops, grabbing her arm and asking what she means. She frantically insists that he must call her by the title detective. He's completely baffled by her strange and sudden demand. She gets even more flustered, urging him to just hurry up and say it. She thinks about the strange feeling of familiarity she gets from his face. She hopes this will reveal a connection between him and her mortal enemy. He finally gives in and calls her detective, asking if she's satisfied. She stares at him intently, waiting for some kind of sign or realization, but her experiment fails, telling her absolutely nothing, much to her disappointment. She dismisses the idea, thinking he can't be connected to her enemy. She awkwardly tells him to forget she ever brought it up, but he's upset, asking how he could possibly forget that. He stops himself mid-sentence, clearly holding something back. She finds his sudden silence completely out of character for him. He changes the subject, demanding she make him a promise. He tells her to never look for someone else in him again. He insists that she should only see him for who he is. She's completely baffled by his intense reaction to her test. Suddenly, a commotion outside interrupts their tense conversation. He earnestly holds out his medal, demanding she make him a promise. She thinks he's surprisingly good at making her feel flustered. Reluctantly, she agrees, and they seal it with a pinky promise. She then points out the noise, suggesting they go see what's happening. He calmly agrees to go with her. She's relieved to see his tense expression has finally relaxed. They peek out the door as adults prepare for an important arrival. She wonders who arrived and is told it's a very special guest. The announcement is made. Her Majesty the Empress has arrived. An elegant figure in a purple gown walks into the room. The guests are Empress Isabel and the second Prince Adore. She asks if the beautiful Empress is his father's older sister. She notes the Empress looks exactly like his uncle. Suddenly, Enoch's uncle rushes over to them. He nervously says they must head home because something urgent came up. The children obediently agree to the sudden departure. She asks if he's okay, but he claims he just sweated a little. But she can tell it's much more than just a little sweat. She realizes he's trembling, looking scared and on guard. He quickly leaves with Enoch as she wishes them a safe trip home. As she waves goodbye, a woman in blue suddenly calls out to Edward. She stops him, questioning why he'd leave without greeting his sister. The Empress then feigns being hurt by his coldness towards her. She puts on a sorrowful act, asking if this is how their family should be. Edward is visibly distressed by her manipulative words. He forces himself to greet her, but she calls Enoch her lovely niece. Edward immediately declares he has cut all ties with his family. He firmly tells her to leave his son alone, shocking Enoch. The Empress's expression turns cold as she makes an excuse to leave. But someone else questions her sudden departure, making the atmosphere even more tense. The man questioning her is Edward, who demands she stop calling herself his sister. He yells that her claims of being family make him extremely uncomfortable. The Empress feigns sadness, asking if he's still mad at her. Enoch has never seen his uncle so angry as she pleads with little brother Edward. The crowd whispers about Edward's rudeness, leaving Enoch confused by the situation. Edward looks genuinely ill, begging to be allowed to leave the party. But he's pressured to make up with her, and Enoch finds her insistence creepy. She keeps pushing, asking what's wrong as Edward grows more frustrated. Enoch, siding with his uncle, tries to figure out how to get him out. Then, a shocking and brilliant idea comes to his mind. Her brilliant idea is to simply make a huge fuss about the situation. She rushes over, loudly declaring that Edward is about to collapse from a fever. She winks at Enoch, secretly asking him to help her with the act. In a flash, Enoch understands exactly what she is planning to do. He immediately joins in, begging his father to go home before he gets worse. Their performance convinces the other guests that Edward is truly unwell. She then directly confronts the woman for not noticing how much he was suffering. She warns that if he collapses, it will become an imperial family scandal. The woman, now cornered, finally tells a surprised Edward that he can leave. She quickly tries to save face, claiming she was only acting out of concern. She thinks the woman's sudden concern is very strange. Edward's father watches the tense exchange, sweating nervously. He finally tells his son that it's time for them to leave. As they walk away, she gives them a cheerful wave goodbye. She immediately wishes that she could have gone with them. But behind her, the Empress lets out a single cold laugh. Circia is terrified, realizing the woman is absolutely furious. She justifies her actions, thinking her uncle was clearly struggling. Trying to be brave, she tells herself she did what was right. She formally greets the Empress, introducing herself as Circia Emblem. The Empress smiles, saying she's glad someone cares so much for Edward. But Circia claims she's the one who really cares about her uncle. The Empress's pleasant expression shatters, shocked by the child's audacity. Circia boldly tells her to stop bothering her uncle. She then cheekily asks if the Empress would get mad at a child. The Empress's anger quickly turns into a subtle, knowing smirk. She calls Circia adorable and very emblem-like, a strange compliment. Then she decides it's time for her and her son to leave. The young prince politely bids them farewell as they walk away. Circia is left wondering what her emblem-like comment really meant. Circia returns to her seat asking for some water. She explains she met the Empress and asks if she dislikes the emblems. Her companion reveals that someone once proposed to Circia's mother. That someone was His Majesty, the Emperor, which shocks Circia. Now she understands why the Empress holds a grudge against her family. She worries she's on the Empress's bad side but hopes her age will protect her. Later that night, a frantic voice is heard calling out Circia's name. Her mother bursts into her bedroom, looking extremely worried. Circia wakes up as her mom demands to know what she said to the Empress. Her mother insists she shouldn't have spoken to the Empress at all. Circia stammers, unable to explain why she spoke to the Empress. Just then, her father rushes into the room, calling for his wife. He tries to calm his wife, reminding her Circia didn't know any better. He comforts her, mentioning something terrible that happened to someone named Dana. Circia overhears this and asks if something happened to her Aunt Dana. Her mother, too distressed to speak, asks to be left alone. Circia and her father sit together in the quiet room. She asks him about Aunt Dana, but he doesn't have any answers yet. He explains her mother was already on edge before hearing about Circia's actions. Her father offers a sad, reassuring smile, but doesn't answer her question. Her father pulls her into a comforting and reassuring embrace. He tells her that if she did wrong, she can apologize later. But as he speaks, a sudden commotion outside startles them both. He rushes to the balcony to see what the disturbance is. The shouting reminds him of a past fight between his wife and her father. She accused her father of not saving someone because they were a Grey. He yelled back, furious at her for insulting the family's honor. Back in the present, Circia asks her dad what's happening. He tells her to stay put, confirming her mom and grandfather are fighting. He says he'll go check on them, asking her to wait in the room. He tried his best to keep her calm with a strained smile. But as he left, she instinctively knew something was terribly wrong. Her thoughts immediately went to her Aunt Dana, wondering what happened. But even more than that, she worried about someone else's hopes. She remembered Enoch, who could live with his mother if he won the tournament. Sitting up, she realized Enoch must be waiting for his mother's return. Her mom said Dana was injured in Crichton, but she wondered how badly. She feared the injury was so severe that Dana couldn't come back. Jumping out of bed, she wondered if Enoch had heard the news. She panics, thinking he might recklessly go to Crichton himself. She desperately calls out Enoch's name as he stands by the door. He turns back with a serious expression, a bag slung over his shoulder. But before she can reach him, the room is suddenly empty. She recalls how the newspaper revealed Aunt Dana's disappearance, explaining the chaos. With a powerful figure like Dana gone, refugees began to appear. Her nanny tells her to stop reading the depressing news about the country. She learns her father left for the territory to deal with the refugees. When she asks about her mother, she's told she went to the palace. Realizing her whole family is gone, she feels left all alone. She puts on a brave face, saying she'll enjoy a little loneliness. Her nanny tearfully reminds her, "You still have me," which touches Circia's heart. Cecilia promises to always be on her side, offering some much-needed comfort. Feeling better, Circia asks to visit the Grey Mansion, but Cecilia firmly says no. She explains that since Dame Dana is missing, Circia wouldn't be welcomed there. Circia argues that being Enoch's fiancée should grant her special treatment. When that's rejected, she decides to go to sword training instead. At the training grounds, she tapes a drawing of Enoch to a practice dummy. She feels a little bad for him, thinking this might be going too far. But as she looks at the dummy, she has a sudden realization. This training dummy was the one who was always there for her. She happily greets her friend, but accidentally breaks the dummy with a single hit. She stares in shock at the broken pieces of her only companion. She despairs, feeling like even her training dummy has abandoned her now. Overwhelmed, she breaks down, crying about her worries for Enoch and her family. As she's consumed by her sadness, a figure suddenly appears before her. A voice asks why she's crying, and she looks up in surprise. It's a stern-looking man with red hair, dressed in a grand uniform. She immediately recognizes him and cries out, "Grandfather!" in relief. He embraces her tightly, offering comfort as she continues to cry. He then reveals he's stepping down, taking responsibility for Dana's disappearance. She's shocked he's so casual about losing his ducal title. He says a title proves nothing. His sword and life define him. He pats her head, saying with her around, "Nothing else matters." His words about the sword and his way of life resonate with her. He tells her this will help her stand firmly in her own life. He then remembers he brought her a present from the palace. Her excitement makes him smile warmly. She lights up at the mention of a gift. He places a beautiful lace bonnet on her head, which she loves. But then he reveals he's going to the dangerous Crichton forest. She asks if he knows what's happening, but he reassures her about Dana. He tells her not to worry, even though he can't explain the situation yet. But his words don't seem to ease her anxiety at all. She then recalls making him promise to always return for her birthday. He had gently patted her head, promising he would always come back. Suddenly, a strange sound interrupts their serious conversation. It was her stomach growling, and she admits she hasn't eaten yet. Hearing this, her grandfather's protective instincts flare up immediately. Food was so important to him that he forgot his argument with her parents. Her mother also forgot her anger, and began apologizing profusely for the oversight. She happily eats, thinking skipping meals is a useful trick to get attention. In her past life, no one cared, but now her family panics over her. While grateful, her thoughts drift to Enoch, who is probably all alone right now. She sadly wonders when they will ever be able to meet again. As her maid leaves, she worries if Enoch has even eaten. But the maid suddenly turns back with some news for her. She reveals that Lord Enoch has run away from home once again. Circia gets flustered, trying to hide her obvious concern for him. She worries about where he could have gone during such a dangerous time. Meanwhile, a lone boy with white hair sits under the moonlight. Circia has a sudden realization about where Enoch might be. She immediately rushes out onto her balcony to check. Looking out, she scans the area with a determined expression. She smirks, knowing exactly where that rat has gone. And just as she suspected, Enoch is sitting under their usual tree. Circia finds him and notes that he doesn't look upset. He's surprised to see her, but she just smiles warmly. She sits beside him, asking what he was reading so intently. He says it's a letter from his mother, then rests his head on her lap. She offers comfort, but he says he just wants to rest for a bit. Circia struggles to find the right words to comfort him in this moment. He suddenly sits up, revealing his father collapsed upon hearing the news. He explains this is why he isn't crying, but Circia doesn't understand. With his father unwell, he feels he must be strong for his family. She realizes the immense burden he's carrying all by himself. Concerned, she gently asks him if he's truly okay with everything. He tries to downplay his feelings, saying he's used to his mother's absence. Circia sees right through his facade, her expression filled with worry. She looks down at him and states firmly that he's not fine at all. Her directness catches him completely off guard, leaving him speechless. He tries to object, but she angrily calls his mother mean for breaking her promise. She reminds him of all the hard work and training he did just for her. He's surprised she knew, but she insists that's not the important part. Circia passionately states his mother should have done anything to return to him. Her words finally seem to break through his emotional walls. He crumbles, admitting his mother should have come back no matter what. His hands tremble as he clenches them, holding back his emotions. Suddenly he yells that she should have returned because she's his mom. Circia is stunned by his deep-seated anger, which sparks a memory. She recalls another man's intense fury directed at someone else. She yells that he wants revenge because that man killed his mother. If he helps her, they can both get the justice they seek. But instead of agreeing, Do-yoon just starts to laugh at her. He calmly asks who told her he wanted revenge for his mother. He reveals his mother was the one who took money from that man. Why would he avenge someone like that just because she died? He clarifies that he wants revenge on his mother, not for her. This triggers a painful memory, making her grip her clothes tightly. She realizes she's comparing Do-yoon's situation to Enoch's once again. She remembers Enoch saying the exact same shocking words to her as a child. He'd become the Emperor's sword to make his mother regret everything. She found his childish idea of revenge almost cute compared to Do-yoon's. She challenged him, telling him to get stronger so he wouldn't lose so easily. That's just like Enoch, always managing to get on her nerves. Back then, she never realized the true weight behind his words. Now, years later, she finds herself defeated on the ground. It seems the outcome of their duel has already been determined. An older Enoch stands before her, calling out her name. This is Enoch Gray, now 18 years old. But Circia Emblem, also 18, refuses to accept defeat. Enoch offers his hand, telling her not to strain herself. She grits her teeth, annoyed that he's grown so much stronger. The realization that she lost is just so frustrating. He waits patiently, calling out her name once more. Finally, she accepts his hand, admitting she can't beat him anymore. Her defeat brings back memories of her intense training days. She recalls the endless sound of swords clashing. Circia is seen sparring against a shadowy figure. She pushed herself past her limits with every step, but even then she faced opponents she couldn't overcome. Her training partner would point out every one of her flaws. The shadowy figure she sparred with was named Dana. Circia remembers her name being called out during their intense sessions. She always believed that hard work could overcome any obstacle. But how can you beat a genius who also works hard? Every match ended the same way, with her utter defeat, and he would always look down at her with those empty eyes. She used to know what he was thinking, but not anymore. His constant, unreadable stare after her losses was infuriating. She hated the idea that he might be pitying her. He remembers when they were equals, wondering when the gap grew so wide. After the match, he simply turns and walks away from her. She feels utterly pathetic, consumed by her repeated failures. But then he stops and turns back to face her. He calls out her name and she looks up, surprised. "Don't become a boring person anymore," he tells her coldly. She is completely baffled by his strange and cutting remark. He offers no further explanation, simply turning his back. And with that, he walks off, leaving her behind. His words leave her seething with anger and frustration. Wow, she thinks. It's been a while since I've been this mad. To vent her fury, she heads to the training grounds, terrifying everyone. She relentlessly chases her sparring partners, demanding they fight back properly. She wants a real combat-style spar, but they fear for their lives. Frustrated, she yells that no one is left who will spar with her. Watching from a distance, her father and butler observe the commotion. Her father wonders about her intensity, which is worse after seeing Lord Enoch. He notes her aggressive behavior has become much more frequent recently. Deciding he needs help, he asks the butler to contact his wife. The scene then shifts to a quiet, dripping faucet. Sertia notices the dark circles under her eyes from exhaustion. She worries about her training and considers finding new partners. It's been a month since she left, avoiding what people say. Her matches with Enoch are public spectacles, where his victory is always assumed. The constant comparisons make her feel like she isn't improving at all. Suddenly, she hears a knock and a familiar voice at her door. Peeking out, she's shocked to realize it's her mother. Her mother stands there, greeting her with a warm smile. Overjoyed, Saoirse runs into her mother's arms for a tight hug. Her mom explains she dropped everything because she missed her so much. Saoirse feels like a carefree daughter, despite her actual age and experience. She asks if Dad contacted her, and Mom is shocked she knew the truth. Saoirse confirms her suspicion, knowing her dad was the real reason for the visit. Mom grabs Saoirse, telling her to sit down quickly, making Saoirse nervous. Saoirse resists being pushed onto the couch, insisting she didn't do anything wrong. Sitting down, Mom asks honestly why Saoirse is tormenting the knights with sparring. Saoirse argues sparring must be serious to prepare for war and real combat growth. Mom smiles knowingly, realizing something deeper about her daughter's intense training. Mom tells Saoirse she is anxious because she desperately wants to grow stronger. This anxiety stems from constantly losing sparring matches against Enoch, slowing her growth. Saoirse hangs her head, feeling the weight of her mother's words. She admits her growth is slow compared to the rest of her family. She's terrified of being the first emblem to lose to Grey. Her mother looks at her with deep concern and sympathy. Mom reminds her of when she first fell in love with the sword. She then asks if Saoirse still loves the sword now. Saoirse cries that the sword cheated on her first with Enoch. She questions if love is meant to be this painful. Her emotional outburst leaves her looking utterly heartbroken. After listening patiently, her mom calmly asks if she's finished venting. Her mom proposes a special measure, and Saoirse says she'll do anything. The task is to attend a birthday party and dance, leaving Saoirse speechless. Her mom adds that her dad will even teach her how to dance. She just needs to wear a pretty dress and enjoy some social activities. But the very thought of socializing makes Saoirse absolutely lose her mind.